In the house?
No, it lives in Madison, Ohio. At her sister's farm.
I don't want to have a chicken.
Huh?
I don't want any roosters. Where is I just want to talk to chickens.
I'm trying to think, where's the leader?
Have their eggs. That's it.
Well, the thing is that if you want.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to start in about 30 seconds. Please ensure your cell phones are on silent or off. Council members, ensure your microphone is on.
Vacation. I think he's on vacation. That's what your eyes are faced.
I was just happy. My day.
All right, good evening. Today's July 5th, 2022. It is 6:02 p.m. Today is a meeting of the Committee of the Whole for Barberton City Council. Before we begin, we're going to jump into individual committee reports this evening. I'd ask that council members speak up a little louder than normal. The clerk is not here, so we have a recording device up front, just for notes for Lori when she comes back, if you can. Okay. All right, so we're going to jump into individual committee meetings today, and we'll start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. I really don't even need this. This is Mike, I can speak loud enough. Today is Tuesday, July 5th, 6 o'clock. We're at the Streets, Sidewalks, and Lighting Committee. All members are present. All council members are present, except for Mr. Jaber, and other guests as noted on my sheet. Topics of discussion. I have one piece of legislation, and it's to enter into contract with Kenmore Construction to reconnect a 30-inch storm sewer on Worcester Road North between Border Street and Norwood. It's necessary to replace this current 30-inch sewer line because it's 110 years old, and it is in very poor condition, 110 years old. There were three estimates, or three bids that was presented: Kenmore, H&M Miller, and Rulin. And Kenmore was the lowest and the best bid. Also, Mr. Teodecki is looking for a grant. He's requested a 75% grant, 25 local, from OPWC, and a local share request of 60% to be loaned 40% local cash. So hopefully this will minimize the cost of this project. Because this is late, the request was late but approved by the law director, my committee needs to invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend Council Rule 302. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Erica is whispering today.
I'm sorry.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right. So if anybody has any questions, you can direct those to Mr. Teodecki in regards to this 110-year-old, it's a storm sewer. Storm sewer. Mhm. Any questions? This is probably one of many that's over 100 years old in this town. No questions? No? Do I have a motion to call for this?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Erica, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's passed. Pending legislation, there's none. And if anybody has any miscellaneous discussion, Mr. Greer?
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. I was just wondering if there's an update on not necessarily the status of the city worker. Hopefully it's all right, but how that, what, relating to the accident, what
I,
happened, how it
Eddie is-
happened?
Eddie is
Yeah,
shaking
I
his
just
head.
found out yesterday
Okay.
at my house, because I've been away from B-Town for about 2 weeks, so I just found out yesterday. And it brought back some horrible, horrible feelings when we had another employee that actually got killed. So I would rather not talk about that, but
There's, the investigation continues.
Okay. Yeah, I just think that we should look into why or how. Well, not necessarily, but I'm sure the investigation's ongoing, so.
right, until you have that in front of you, it could be a lot of different things that happen.
Sure, yep.
And that's something that will have to be looked at and made a decision on what happened, whose fault it was, or whatever happened. I don't know. Like I said, I just found out yesterday, and it was heartbreaking to me. I'm glad that hopefully he'll be okay and be able to come back to the city. But that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy in this town. So,
Thank you, Chair.
any other miscellaneous from the audience? No? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Erica Bailey, and second,
Second.
George Griffin, and what is that, 6:12 PM. Thank you. And Erica, I want to thank you for filling in for me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Angeloff. Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Bailey as Chair. Mr. Griffin will step in to do the committee this evening.
Environmental Health and Social Services has nothing to report.
Still do your committee report.
Okay, do we have any miscellaneous?
Just one thing.
Okay, we gotta do the whole thing. Okay. Erica Bailey is here. Sean's absent. Nina? is
Yes, I
present.
just wanted to thank Mrs. Bailey for sending that report over for the mosquito abatement.
Okay.
There is another new one that I will send out
Okay,
from last week as
okay,
well.
thanks.
We don't have any requests for legislation. Do we have anything from the body or from the gallery? Or from council? No. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I will second. We adjourn at 6:09. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Next up is Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Planning, Annexation, and Codes Committee meeting to order. It is July 5th, 2022, 6:09 PM here in council chambers. Members of the committee who are present includes myself as chair, Mrs. Angeloff, and President Greer. Mr. Jaber is absent. All other council members are present, and any guests will be noted on my sheet. We have one request for legislation, a letter from Mayor Judge requesting legislation for the establishment of a downtown outdoor refreshment area, or DORA, per the ORC 4301.82. Emergency wording is requested. Due to the public notice and the timing of this request, there will be 3 readings. The first will be July 11th, second would be July 25th, and the third would be at a special meeting August 1st. The public hearings will be held July 11th at council, July 20th at the Planning Commission meeting, and July 27th at the Board of Health meeting. The proposed area is approximately 38 acres. Mayor Judge had sent all of council some more information, including a map of this area, just before council this evening.
I don't have.
So
It's emailed to us
it was
just minutes.
It was
before.
just emailed earlier today. So if you want to see that, I can pass that down to you.
I didn't
After speaking to Mayor Judge, we did talk about what this would look like once we start it. There will be a limit of days Thursday, Friday, Saturday from, I believe said noon to 10 p.m. And then we'll kind of see how it goes. We can always change that down the line. But this is what it looks like so far. Are there any questions regarding this piece of legislation?
Are the people that, I'm sorry. Are the people that are going to be a part of the door going to speak at the public meeting?
That's a good-
The establishments?
I was not planning on having any owners or operators.
How many do you have that are interested?
I can't recall, there was a merchants meeting a few months ago that I spoke at.
27 members were there.
There was quite a bit of interest. And so if this goes forward, every business will be involved from this level. So if they meet the requirements with the liquor license, and they'll have a sticker if they want to be a part of it saying, hey, we're a part of the door. Businesses that don't want to participate will have a sticker saying they're not a part of it. Then other businesses that don't serve alcohol will have a sticker saying, yes, you can come in with your refreshment, or no, you can't. So it will be clearly visible of who's participating in the district and who's not.
Another question.
Okay, real quick, sorry, before I forget, he had mentioned the permit. It's required to have a D liquor permit, and Barberton has 11 qualified permit holders with that permit, so I did, yeah.
Nina had her hand up.
Mrs. Angela?
I'm invisible. I'm just a little confused here because I have this from last year and I have a date on it, June 14th, 2021. And then nothing has been done or said or anything until now. And it's July 5th, so you've almost lost like 6 weeks. And 3 readings gives you till August 1st. That would be a special. I don't understand, and I've not talked to, well, I don't go there, but anybody has mentioned it. Any tavern owner or anything says, we should bring this back up. From a year, I think now we're going to rush, and maybe we should have looked at this like in February, March or something, and had the tavern owners come in and talk to us and get their feelings on that. I think, again, like I said, this was from last year, and then I think Mr. Heidi gave it to us earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, and then nothing's been done, in this time. So Mrs. Coburn wants to say something.
All along, we've been working on getting everything ready. All of the merchants that want to participate have been answering emails with the mayor, even though it hasn't been real public. We've all been working towards this point all year with Mr. Heidick and the different, setting up the parameters and following through the rules, and Mr. Judge has been getting us all the rules. So it hasn't been in council, but it has been continually being worked on for the last year.
I can't believe that's been a deep, dark secret, because
It
nothing
wasn't.
isn't, it's like,
Mr.
all of a sudden, boom, we've got this again.
Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Chair. To Councilor Angela's point there's a lot of sections that are required from the Department of Commerce Division of Liquor Control that the mayor has to put extensive work into, with safety plans, with trash plans. Each section does require a bit of work, so
Right.
the mayor has been working heavily on this, but I have been back and forth with the mayor, as I do have an extensive knowledge of liquor permitting and liquor rules, that we didn't feel that presenting it until it was absolutely complete and absolutely with the full knowledge of everybody that's going on, prepared to come forward with it. We didn't want any questions of, is this going to be allowed? Is this not going to be allowed? Is this against the rules? Is this for the rules? No, when I say that, I'm talking ORC rules. So it was quite a bit of work, and the map drawing was probably one of the hardest, because and you'll see it when you see your email there. There's certain rules of how many contiguous acres there has to be, how many liquor permits are within them. Chairwoman Thompson did say the D class, but A classes can be included, which, for example, is Ignite, and A class is a manufacturer's license. If another small brewery decided to move into the district to see something like this and wanted to be a part of, their A class license would allow them to participate. When you look at certain drawings of this maps and certain renderings, the original one the mayor had, we took a look at and we decided, can you move this way, this way, include this, and sacrificing this, because again, there's an acreage concern there. That, do we want to encompass a residential district because for the sake of lines, or do we cut through alleys? So it was a tedious process with this. That's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
Mrs. Angela?
And I do appreciate the work. If you want to look at mine, I highlighted everything last year in pink. Everything that we had discussed in pink. And I know with the ARP money and with everything going on in the mayor's office, and as busy as the mayor is, I can understand that you want to get all your ducks in a row. I totally understand that. But then again, transparency, I don't know anything about this, you know? I mean, it was like, okay, here, you know, we have a request for 3 readings and blah, 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 and I haven't seen any tavern owners, you know, requesting it. Now, I don't go to the planning commission meeting, so I don't know, you know, what was said there. And, you know, I'm not saying I'm for it, I'm not saying I'm against it, because I don't have enough information to make that decision. As of right now, it looks like a pretty good area, 30 acres, or is that what you said?
38.
38 acres. But, you know, we haven't heard, I mean, have you had any meetings or talked to Chief Morber, you know, with the police and that type thing, and have you?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The downtown merchants, have they had the conversation?
We had the meetings with the mayor, and the different members have turned in their paperwork, and we were waiting for everything to be ready for us to start the special meetings. I mean, everybody in my association wants it, and that's tavern owners and the other businesses all think it's going to benefit us tremendously, the art, everyone in that. So we've had the meetings, our quarterly meetings with the merchants, but we have not spoken to the mayor, to the chief, because that was on our list of things with our letter to that was turned in that would be, those questions would have to be answered.
Okay, I'll just wait till those questions are answered.
Mayor Judge had something to say.
Thank you. Yeah, so we've been working on this for quite a while. I have talked to Chief Morber and former Chief Bursley when he was here. I'm not going to speak for them, but they're not overly excited to have more responsibility.
Right.
And I think the apprehension, and even my apprehension, is whenever you add alcohol to a situation, it has a greater potential to make things worse, right? So that's where the safety forces come in. But that's why we kind of wanted to restrict the hours and see how it works. You can always revoke this. Did meet with the merchants. I forget the date of that meeting. Did send out an email to several tavern owners and the South Summit Chamber of Commerce for comments, and received those comments. And then it's kind of been continuing to do the mapping and the sanitation plan and all that, making sure that, not even on the safety side, but that our service department can maintain. And then if this is approved, then we have to go to the state to get approval from them. Then we still have to put together the stickers, what they're going to look like. We have to put together signage so the boundary, people know where they're at. But extensive research in existing doors, everyone from Canal Fulton to Canton and Akron to Findlay out west, Western Ohio to Dublin. closer to Columbus. So talking on the phone with them, Canal Folk was one, for example, that created their door district and then they shrunk it. They reduced it after it was operational for a while. So a lot of communities kind of change things. They either extend the hours or the days or the footprint or what have you, in the guidelines of the ORC. Same process every time. You have to get council permission and then get the state permission. So there's been a lot of work to go into this. No one has taken this on. It's kind of been a group effort, but with so much going on, it's taken some time. So, myself and Councilman Heidi have spoken several times about this.
I have another question.
Mrs. Fry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
what are the months, the weeks that this is going to be in effect? Because we're not going to do it in the winter, are we?
I didn't see it
Yeah.
in here.
It would be-
Yeah, but I mean outdoors.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah, if they
that.
want, sorry.
Drinking up.
No, you're
It's going to be year
That's
round?
that's a great question, and actually, I was speaking to the mayor about this earlier. I don't know about the dates. I think it would just be year round, right? That it would be allowed,
Year
or
round. I mean,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's times when we're wearing shorts in January and February. So it would be year round, but there's a boundary. There's no stay within.
yeah. And also, I think it gives businesses an opportunity that, maybe I'll use M&M's for an example. They're right on the corner. They don't have an outdoor area. If they want to maybe section off a part of that parking lot, put a few picnic tables out there, whatever, they could have, people go outside, enjoy that. I mean, I don't know if you've seen them, but there are big domes that you could make and sit in. No?
Nope,
Okay.
no.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. There are some, and I can give an example with the Green Diamond. A place like M&M, Block 7, there are still parameters that have to be respected for right-of-way, for fencing, and it is city property on the sidewalks. However,
Right.
there is one thing, and I will use this as the example because I'm unsure, Mr. Mayor, if anybody else has applied and been approved. Last year, when we first started talking about this, shortly after, the state granted what's called a temporary permit expansion. And that runs through the end of this year. I highly doubt the state legislature will take it up to renew it, given that they're up for reelection and people like us are usually the last on their list. But what that allowed for was places like the Green Diamond. I have on file with the city that I can serve open container on the sidewalk on the Park Street side. And if I file the paperwork to close off Park Street between Second and the alley, it actually covers that street. So during Mumfest, let's say, I would petition the service department, the safety departments to close that street down. I could serve alcohol at picnic tables in the middle of Park Street. Right now, I can't do that because the street's open. The sidewalk, because it's a temporary permit expansion allowed by the state, I do have access to that without permanent fencing. Now, places like M&M, Block 7, Ferris Corner Cafe, anybody with public sidewalks and enough space to be able to have right-of-way can fill out the paperwork with the mayor's office. That procedure is, I did help the mayor come up with a application for it that's very fair. It requires a deposit in case something goes wrong, which if something goes wrong, the city can revoke in minutes and just shut that down. Places like the Hungarian Club, places like Angie's Restaurants that own their own parking lots may not have those parking lots in the blueprints at liquor control. They could file a temporary expansion themselves with the sheriff's department and the Department of Commerce to utilize that. They would not have to go through the city because they own the piece of property and it touches the boundaries. The DORA kind of slowed traction when that was passed because it gave all the establishments the ability to expand without needing something like this and still have an outdoor atmosphere. That's the only example I can give because, again, I don't know if anybody else has applied when this was applicable, the Green Diamond applied and was granted after we had to show extensive sanitation plans, extensive security plans, because we were using city property, that if the plan wasn't acceptable, the executive office could deny it. So.
That's a great example.
You can't have just domes on the sidewalk. I know it would be nice, but.
I'm just saying, I feel like there's possibilities for some sort of, not really expansion in a way, but it kind of opens a door for possibilities for different businesses.
It gives,
So-
it would give them something at the expiration of that state law with the temporary permit expansion this year. It would give them some sort of leg in the game to have outdoor, whereas right now, unless they go on file or unless they own enough of their own property, they haven't been able to do.
Mrs. Fry.
If they don't, if the certain establishments do not have their own, like, outdoor area where people can drink openly, are they allowed to just walk on the street and consume their alcohol as long as they don't go into another establishment? Because it's my understanding that they have to get rid of the cup that they have if they go into a different establishment. So if these different establishments do not have their own area that you can go outside, they're just free to roam throughout the entire Dora? Is that what is going to happen?
Mr. Heidick.
First off, any alcohol establishment does have the right to refuse service to anyone for no reason whatsoever. The stickers that the mayor spoke of would be on doors of every establishment.
Right.
Now, let's say you had a retail establishment downtown. You were free and clear to say, yes, I will allow people with refreshments into my establishment to shop, or you could have a no sign that says we don't allow that, so you would have to dispose of it before you enter. Now, when you're talking about entering another establishment that is part of the DORA, now you're talking the business itself, whether we would allow it in from another side. We could say no.
Okay, it was my understanding that they couldn't, but you're saying that
if this was the designated cup and someone came into an establishment from the outside with it, the business has every right to say, that's, you can't bring that in here, we don't want you to bring that one in. And that is up to the individual establishment. If somebody came into the Green Diamond with that, I could easily say, I don't believe you purchased that within the district and you can't bring it in here.
And also, if they did bring it in, then if they wanted it refilled, you cannot refill it.
No.
Because it's from a
No.
different
Right.
establishment.
No refills.
Right.
Okay.
It would have to be a separate purchase.
Mrs. Coburn.
The DORA is basically for the people to walk around from Ignite all the way down to the karate school with their open container. It isn't designed for them to sit outside in the street or it's for meandering up and down with your open container. It's not a pub crawl, not at all a pub crawl. You cannot take your cup from Ignite and go down to the Green Diamond and get it refilled. That's not it at all. And the cup is not inexpensive. It is for the right to carry it. You're supporting the downtown area with the purchase of one cup and you throw that cup away. No refills. But it's not meant for us to put picnic tables outside. It's for a strolling process, or instead of having to put the beer garden fence up around something and blocking businesses off, we won't have to do that because we'll have an alcohol area.
Mayor Judge Head.
So I was under the same impression as well, that if I buy a door cup and beverage from one bar, I cannot get into another bar with that cup. If that's not the case, and it's just, you can get in, if they allow you, you just can't get refills, perhaps we can, if that's the wish of council, we can write that in, that you can't enter another business with a cup. Because I could always dispose of my cup, someone could pick it up and walk in. You would assume that it'd be empty at that point, but we could discuss that. The other thing is, if there are picnic tables out or a area at an establishment, and I come from another tavern, and I sit down there, the owner has every right to come out and say, you didn't buy that beverage here,
Yeah, this is our
you've got
tables.
to leave, yeah. And all the other rules about public intox and all that all apply. So if someone's out participating in the door and they're publicly intoxicated, the police can take action. So all the other rules still apply.
Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Chair. As well as the laws of the city and the state, there's also laws that establishments have to follow. If somebody were to walk in with their friends and they still had a cup, yes, they cannot get refilled. The establishments still have the responsibility to assess every individual, just like we do now, to say, you're not getting another one in here. You free to hang out, have some water, eat something. We are not serving you anymore. You appear to be intoxicated. That still falls on the business, and we take that very seriously because that is our license at jeopardy. So participating in this, we do believe is a benefit, but our people that work these establishments are also very well aware to how to size somebody up, how to look at them and say, no.
Mrs. Bailey.
What has the crime rate been in like Canal Fulton with this?
I'm not sure.
I'm
She asked what the
curious.
crime rate is. She said Canal Fulton.
Yeah.
But in any of the lower districts, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Having the ability to revoke this,
Yeah.
I'm sure that if there were major issues that the community would do that,
Okay.
but I can't answer your question.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have a question for Councilman Heidick. if I may.
Let me answer that question.
Okay, go ahead.
We just did the Heritage Ohio report, and Heritage Ohio, which is Main Street, Ohio, all of the communities in the state of Ohio have seen absolutely no increase
Okay.
in violence or abuse of the DORA in our reports that they gave us. There's none in the state of Ohio have had any unusual circumstances. They've all been, even in the college towns around Kent, and that there's not been an increase of crime.
Okay.
That's great to know. Did you have something else?
Well,
I don't.
the mayor wanted
Sorry.
to ask.
Oh, sorry.
Hey,
Go ahead.
put you in this-
No, that's all right.
You're the only one here that works in the tavern. I'm unaware, is there a tavern association anymore?
There was a long time ago, and that has not been in effect in many, many years.
I didn't think so.
Okay.
One other thing, I do know that all of our establishments here in town, they take great pride in the training that they put their employees through to meet their insurance requirements so that they're aware of their responsibilities.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this? What about from the gallery?
I have
Yeah.
a question. Have any of the other cities that have done the DORA program, have any of them started out with like a ticket program where until you kind of see how it's going, you can only purchase so many drinks while you are in that area? Does anyone know?
I haven't heard anything like that. The only thing I know about it is that the different cups and that the establishment has the right to say, like, yes, you can bring it in here, or no, don't bring drinks from another place in here. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Chair. I can't speak for other establishments, but most of them that I know would not let a single person purchase like 4 drinks and leave with them.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, they
you know,
won't.
'cause,
There-
I mean,
there is that level of responsibilities.
As many new alcohol establishments as we've had in Barberton, you know, I'm not seeing, you know, because I listen to the police scanner, you know, and read the crime reports in the Herald. You know, and I haven't seen any increase. And we did do the street thing where we closed off Tusk. And, you know, when people could go outside of an establishment with an alcoholic beverage, it had to be like in a solo cup or something, and you had to kind of stay right in that area. And, you know, my husband and I came down, and that was amazing. You know, I think it brought a lot more people downtown, you know, that maybe normally wouldn't. come down, you know, because, hey, I can have a beer and I can sit outside, you know, like, for example, Fair's Corner Cafe, you know, they don't have any outside seating, and it is a very small establishment. And there were, you know, my husband and I went down there, and there were quite a few people that actually visited for the first time because, you know, I mean, like my husband, has claustrophobia, and so if they're really busy down there, it is a small establishment, so his anxiety goes up. So being able to go down there and then sit outside, you know, with his beverage and be outside and stuff, I think it did bring a lot of more people down to check, you know, the different establishments we have downtown. So I personally, and I'm not a big drinker, but I think it's an amazing idea.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the gallery?
I got one other thing.
President
Can you
Carey?
give the public hearing dates again?
Yep.
July 11th,
Yeah, we've got,
25th, and 1st. Those are the
No.
two readings.
That's
no,
the public hearing.
Oh, public.
no, the
hearing.
public
First
hearings
public
was
hearing
the
is
11th at the council meeting, Planning Commission on July 20th, and Board of Health on July 27th.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Can I have a motion to call for this piece of legislation?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Gray, and a second?
It's gonna have to be you.
I'll second the motion, because it is going 3 readings. But I still like, you know, I still will try to be present in all those public hearings to hear what the tavern's owners say.
Okay,
So I'll second that motion.
thank you. Okay, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you say aye?
Oh,
You-
I didn't say aye. Aye.
Okay, I'm like, do you, is that a no? Okay, moving on. For pending legislation, we have 4 pieces of legislation for the Truson Farm development, including the PUD, the rezoning, CRA, and the TIF. Were there any questions or comments about any of those pieces of legislation? Perfect. Moving on to miscellaneous discussion. Is there any miscellaneous discussion for planning of the planning committee? The body? Anyone in the gallery for planning? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make the
Mrs.
motion to adjourn.
Mrs. Angela, thank you, and
I'll
a second.
second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:39.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Next up is Finance and Personnel with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance Personnel, it is 6:39, Tuesday, July 5th, 2022. We are in council chambers. The committee is all present, which consists of Councilors Cover and Thompson, President Greer, and myself as chair. All others noted. We have, I don't have the amended one, but can I suspend to add for the police tax levy?
Sure.
Okay. Pull it up here. I have from the law department. It's going to be a late request, and before I entertain the motion, I'd like to explain it. The .75 mil police capital tax levy that cannot be used for wages is on the agenda and has been read once. However, the current on the agenda is actually 2 pieces. So next week, we are going to be amending on the floor what's written to strip out half of it. And what I'm going to ask for a motion to suspend the rules to add this is a resolution determining to proceed with the submission of the question of an additional tax levy in excess of the 10 mil limitation for the purpose of the acquisition, construction, improvement, or maintenance of buildings, equipment, and supplies for police pursuant to section 5705.19 of the revised code and declaring an emergency. Nothing is changing. It's just the current ordinance that's already been read once. The Board of Elections requires 2 different pieces. So we'll be stripping half of that next week. This resolution is the half we're stripping out. Are
And
there any
putting-
questions before I entertain a motion to suspend? Okay, do I have a motion to suspend Council Rule 702, or invoke Council Rule 702 to suspend 302?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
I'll second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
That said, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
And I will second.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
There are no other requests for legislation. Pending, we have ordinance 85, 2022, amending 47, 2021 compensation for elected officials, which we had 1 reading already. And the police levy tax, which has been read once, which I've just gone through, that will be stripped in 2 pieces. Are there any questions on either of these from the committee? Body? Gallery? Make my job easy tonight. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you,
I'll second.
thank you. We are adjourned at 6:42.
All right, thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes our individual committee meetings for this evening. We're going to take a 5-minute break and come back and start the committee of the whole meeting.
Run, James.
No, what happened is, the original piece that we already did once has everything. Okay. Let's say down here, this one, the second one, and that's what we're doing. We're taking the one and cutting it into two. That's all it is. Is the board. And the action. So this is the Board of Elections, but the original one, everything's in that. Okay. It's just we got parted out.
I'm not losing them.
It's all the words. They're just going to.
Going to different,
Yeah.
got to go for procedure.
People got their special permits. People that didn't have that were all complaining to me. Waiting on the mayor. Well, no, we weren't, it wasn't here yet, because
You guys could have came
Huh?
with updates about what you were doing.
we kept waiting. Everything had to go through the bill. We were constantly asking him and waiting for him to
You know what,
give
I
us.
asked the question.
doing it.
When I researched stores, that was the first place you were supposed to go. And then they aren't even on it.
No,
So I don't know. I like now, they're on. But, you know,
Okay, no, you're allowed.
You're all
yeah,
loud.
see, if it's.
for what they,
I don't, that was when I was back.
Nothing's going to change. And it hasn't changed.
I haven't.
We're just talking about supervision.
This particular instance.
no, that's,
I know when the breweries were
No, I don't know. They quit at the city limit. Like you said, we got the license.
Magic City was
We
here.
got the vehicle.
right, and
The
they,
guy.
because they went
But are
from
you
night
so
to
pissed off?
M&M
You have so much
to
whatever
Magic City
resident
because
that you
they
gotta
could
make
get
sure.
food at M&M.
Chestnut.
It allowed the city of Barberton to be placed on that beer.
Right.
And the town,
No,
No, they don't, pub crawls are not really like the thing anymore, but
I know they're
the
not
group
the
paths.
same, but that.
the group
The
path.
group path brought thousands and thousands of people, extra people every month. It was this big Ohio thing.
Right, they had
And you
to
get
go.
stamps and you go to these different places. And that's a different crowd.
Yeah, they're paying $12 for a glass of beer.
Yeah, they go there, they have one, and then they'll go to the next one, and have one, and then go, and then it's.
It's not a pub crawl.
Pub crawls are good. To be honest with you, pub crawls to go get hammered, and go to every other bar. Like
This
that's,
is not the
pub crawls
idea.
intentional to go. Hammered.
Well, the thing is, they can figure out. Who am I?
But it is not a pub crawl.
I think it would be good. I wonder, like White Rabbit, you know, they might be one that allows it for you to bring it in and look around or whatever.
They are anxious for it because it allows people to walk over from or
big
from
time
the
from
restaurant
somebody
and
butcher.
enjoy looking at
or something, you know.
with the drink.
Yeah.
And it's not designed. It's not at all.
You have no
Yeah.
idea. Oh my gosh, every day I'm like,
And
you know, delete and ban, delete and ban, or block. I mean, as soon as I see somebody that's average, I decline. But it's like, oh my God, how many people are in the double?
It's kind of like our ordinances, that they are quite
I
strict too,
know.
but they're not
I feel
enforced.
bad.
So enforcement is going to be key.
They can hear stuff, you know, and I mean, them, I share, they're not, because they're, yeah, they're all kids, but all of them, I was like, oh, it's like every time I see, you know,
Yep.
notification, I'm like,
She is the one
got down.
that's going over the paperwork bill and
oh, I have. I got a little warning that when it gets down, I can get and I was like, it's apart. Obviously, if I put it on, well, I can't let it down. And I would probably say
What's your politics? It don't make sense to keep talking about it.
last week. Because we've been.
Oh, I know, I had it filed away. Is it ever even materialized?
Well, I spoke to one of the owners down at M&M's the other day when I came into your shop, and we were talking about it, and they're really excited about the possibility, and, you know,
Follow it.
yeah.
Sitting on the bar, you can enjoy it. And like, I don't ever allow alcohol in my business because I don't want you pouring a drink on one of my customers' plates or.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I don't think the label's good. I do have this thing. It's not that I'm not running.
Yeah.
That's going to.
I think it's
But Magic City was one of the. Why they come down. I think it makes it a lot. Everybody plays. I don't think
You're done, you don't have a chance to get away, you don't wanna hurt you.
we had our, were you there for that? Like, that was mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think we made like 1,822.
Yeah, it was great. And I think too, like,
After all, they
you
had
know,
plenty of time.
because even with COVID,
receipt,
kind
no,
of changing in a sense where the biggest is like it's not, he still, I mean, he is extremely watchful of what's going on in the, you know, and stuff. And I think, you know, it brings in a different crowd. You know, you're not like the naughty con, you know?
That's calm.
A lot of people that were around. It was bad.
I mean, it's, you know, I mean, it's something that can, especially like, you know, like places that are in reading town, right next door, you know, I think it's, I mean, like, Johnny has to buy a glass of wine or a beer and walk around Johnny It is like, it is the fanciest Giant Eagle you will ever see in your entire life. They have like a bar you can sit down and, you know, and so from what I've heard, you know, they really haven't had any issues, so. I don't know how they, you know, because it's like two, once, okay, so once you buy the cup, you buy a cup, and you go to whatever establishment.
This is hard, guilty.
Once you
Yeah.
finish your drink from that establishment, can you take that cup into a different establishment and purchase one from them? Like, and they put it in the same cup?
But with the being legislation, so you can't take them out.
Yeah.
He can't take ours.
No, he's fair, he's fair. He's a fair.
Just like that's how it
He's
is.
a fair. Like, no.
Now he's gonna think. That thought's not done.
Yeah, my daughter
As
and
they say,
her
fear,
boyfriend
scared
and
me,
some of their friends, they
What was the guilty one?
go down there for lunch.
You're not allowed to do
Yeah.
I don't, but you don't put it here. It's breweries.
No, and for as much as you're paying for one beer, you go, you know, it's like going to enjoy it. I mean, with Magic City, you can get, well, and with Ignite, you can get the can, you know, closed cans, so you can take them home and stuff like that, but they're closed. I think it's a good thing.
All right, good evening. Again, it is July 5th, 2022. Today is a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. It is 6:54. Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Citizens addressing council.
There are none.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. All right, committee reports. We're going to start off with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Angela.
Thank you, Mr. President. Street, Sidewalks, and Lighting Committee met this evening at 6 p.m. All members were present, along with council members, except for Mr. Jaber, and all other members of guests as noted on my sheet. We did have one request for legislation, and it's to enter into contract with Kenmore Construction to reconnect a 30-inch storm sewer on Worcester Road North between Borden Street and Norwood. It's necessary to replace the current one, because it's 110 years old. There was 3 bids that were received, and Kenmore was the lowest and the best bid. We did request, this was a late request, so we had to invoke the 10-day rule, and that was all passed, and this came out of committee, unanimous, and we had no pending and no miscellaneous discussion. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Angela. Planning, annexation, and codes, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes met this evening at 6:09 here in council chambers. All council members were present with the exception of Mr. Jaber. We had one request for legislation, the establishment of a downtown outdoor refreshment area, or ADORA. There was pretty extensive discussion on that. We also have 4 pending pieces of legislation for the Truson Farm development, and I have nothing else to report. We adjourned at 6:39.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Next up, city utilities, Mrs. Coburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. City utilities met last week. Everything we had was voted on, and we have nothing new to report. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Coburn. Public welfare and safety, Mrs. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met on Monday, June 27th, and all members of the committee were present, as well as all council members, with the exception of Mrs. Angeloff, and guests as noted on my agenda sheet. We had no new requests for legislation. We had one piece of pending legislation, which was voted on last week. It was to enter into contract with Royce Protection Services for the security guards at the entrance to the building. There was no miscellaneous discussion, and with that, public welfare and safety will pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fry. Rules, marketing, and development, Mr. Griffin.
Rules, Marketing, and Development, we met June 27th. All members of the committee were present. All members of council and all others noted. We had no requests for legislation, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Bailey, are you up for it?
I can whisper it. Do you want me to
No.
whisper it?
Mr. Griffin, would you like to cover down for Mrs. Bailey?
Yes, Environmental Health and Social Services, we met tonight at 6:09. All members present except Mr. Jaber wasn't present, he's absent. We had no requests for legislation, with that would pass.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. City Properties and Parks and Recreation with Mr. Jaber. Mr. Jaber is absent this evening. Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Properties, Parks and Recreation has called for the purchase of 107 5th Street Northwest. An ordinance to authorize the mayor to enter in a purchase agreement for the Barberton Masonic Temple. We also have accepted donation of property, and ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract to accept vacant lot at 67 21st Street Northwest, parcel 01.09794 as a donation to be included in Barberton's land bank program. With that, I pass.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Heidick. Finance and Personnel, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Finance Personnel has met previous week and this week. We are calling for a tax resolution involving the current police tax levy. It had to be split into 2 pieces. Nothing has changed except we're going to strip out the wording from the one, add it to the other. The reason being the Board of Elections requires the 2 pieces though we already had everything included in the one. Pending, we have the elected compensation salaries and the original, and will be still standing in amendment, police property levy tax, which cannot be used for wages. That I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Haddock. That concludes the committee reports for this evening. Is there anything from council members? Mrs. Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I did want to talk about the euchre, citywide euchre tournament that we're having. Paula Callio was actually talking to Mr. Heidick about this, and he's the one that said, you guys should do a euchre tournament. So, so far, I believe we have 7 locations on board. It starts next week. The first round for locations is at each individual establishment. They will pick what day and time works best for them. And then the championship will be on Tuesday the 19th at the Barberton Moose, where the winners from each establishment will then come and play for the trophy. So, and this is all going to benefit K through 5 students. We're trying to supply them with all of the school supplies that they need for here. So, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you.
Sounds interesting. Is there anything else from council members? Mr. Heidick?
To Councilor Thompson's point, the backpacks, just so everybody is aware, are being donated at cost from our new Marks establishment.
Thank you, Mr. Haddock. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Is there any council members? Any department heads that would like to add anything? I have one, a couple things. First off, I hope everybody's 4th of July was good. Council sends their prayers to the family of the city worker that was involved in the accident. And would like to, on behalf of City Council, welcome Samuel Wilsons to the City of Barberton, firefighter and paramedic. So, Mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July. It's my understanding that there's a lot of comments on social media about Barberton's stance on fireworks. Out of all the comments on social media, and I didn't see them all, but I heard there were hundreds, I received one phone call last week. Gentleman disagreed with the city's position and stance. After I explained the position we took, he understood it. He didn't agree with it, but he understood it. He was very professional. And his complaint more was his backyard runs into the backyard of the people behind him, who is Norton, and they do allow it. So his stance was, I can't, but I have to listen to everyone in Norton set theirs off because it's literally a stone's throw away. But he was shocked. One phone call out of all the comments. So social media is great, but we have received one phone call. So I don't know what kind of information was spread along social media, but based on his comments and my conversation with him, I'm assuming it was not correct information. So just keep that in mind. If you have questions, any residents, your constituents have questions, please contact us. Last week we had several meetings with developers, and they were very, very positive. I came into the office this morning with a request for a secondary meeting from one of the developers we met with last week. So hopefully more to come in the near future with that. I had a meeting this morning with Summit County Executive Eileen Shapiro and Summit County Health, EMA. COVID numbers are trending upwards throughout the state. Summit County, they're holding steady, but the numbers are going up a little bit. The feeling is that the state may turn yellow, which is kind of mid-level, but so we're not out of the woods yet, and these things are still being tracked. If anyone has any questions on vaccines or the booster or vaccination clinics or drive-throughs or anything, now shots are available, vaccine is available for people of all ages, but it's all kind of commingled based on age and pre-existing health conditions and all that. So they really just ask that you contact Summit County Health, and they can steer you in the right direction and answer those questions for you. Getting back to the police capital levy, it's so important that we provide the resources to our safety forces. There's one for the fire department, and that's been on the books for probably about 15 years or so. And it's important to realize, as we've kind of said numerous times, what it can be used for, and it's for capital goods, and it can be used as matching funds when there are grant opportunities out there. There's never a good time. I've never heard anyone say, hey, this is a good time to go to the voters and increase taxes. There's never a good time. But as cost rises for us, or for everyone here, throughout the community, it rises for us as well. So, we need to look at how we can provide the services to our residents that are necessary. So, the Heritage Ohio program is continuing to move forward with the DART meetings. There was a few last week. Great feedback, great input. So more to come on that front as well as we move forward. The discussion on the door tonight, great example of good questions, comments, feedback, and that's needed. Every community that I spoke with or researched, there was a process. There's a lot of apprehension, a lot of questions, a lot of concern of how things are going to be handled. And the vast majority of them did go from they either started out full-blown 7 days a week and these are the hours, or they went from a very small few days and few hours and expanded over time. But I think it's important to kind of gauge what's going on and what the feedback is on something like this. And then if it is instituted, what's the result? And can we manage it, or do we just nix the whole thing? So I appreciate everyone's comments today. So there'll be more information next week for the public hearing. But if you have any questions in the meantime, please send me an email or give me a call. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. With nothing else, this meeting will adjourn at 7:07 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
So we can use that wages, right? That's the first thing they say.
My daughter, Martine is the new manager, and they're doing all kinds of, they're kicking me out.
If you guys have a committee report, you can either give it in the mailbox or give it to me now.
I didn't have one.
Gosh, mine is like a whole mess.
But I didn't
They can't be zooming around the city.
I don't know if, I'm not gonna include it.
I have no voice. I had a sore voice.
Oh, goodness.
I was like, I texted, and I'll never show you. You'll crack up. We have like a family group chat between him and my parents. And I said,
exactly, because I'm always asking more.
I say,
My wife woke up one morning with her voice sounding like that and said, there is a
no,
God.
not you, poor thing. That was him. I was like, wow, you care. He did that on purpose.
I said, my wife woke up one